Hey up. So I'm in Mexico and I'm having quite a challenging time. I flew into Cancun, which is completely the wrong place for me. It's a concrete jungle. So then I thought, oh, I'll escape to the beach, and I ended up in a party resort where, you know, everyone here drinks alcohol. If you don't drink alcohol, there's no reason to be here. So I was awake till about 1 in the morning last night, listening to 4 different bars play vile, obscene music with deep bass. Anyway, it's bringing up quite a lot for me. It's bringing up all my irritations, essentially. So noise is a huge irritation for me. You know, in the past I would go mental over noise. Whether that's complaining, whether that's banging on people's doors, whether that's kicking up a huge fuss. And really, and what that is it's not being able to be with it. It's obviously a reaction. It's obviously a reaction to the external, and then getting pulled into the external. And for me, my whole journey now is like, how much can I just feel? Even when I'm triggered, even when I'm pissed off, how much can I just be with it? And there's a few examples of this. I'm starting with the noise. So I'm past the point of just kicking off and reacting. You know, I have an acceptance. So I was sat there, you know, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, noticing it, irritated by it. You know, the question is like, for me, it's like, can I just be with it without kicking off, essentially? So I never got close to kicking off. But then it's like, will I go into, I can't cope with this, I want to end myself, you know, all these stupid thoughts. And actually what happened, the more I was with it and having to accept it, the more I stopped getting irritated by it. Like, I noticed by about 11, 12 o'clock, which I think is when I fell asleep, I don't know how to put it into words, but there was almost a peace with it. Like, out of body experience is way too strong, but it kind of was like, I almost like became the music, like became one with the music, even though it was awful, vile music. And I noticed there was this, like, I wasn't really in my mind anymore. I was like just in, I don't even know how to describe it. You know, I mean, it might have been dissociation. You know, I'm not sure how positive it was, but compared to how I used to react, you know, there was just this deep acceptance that I really noticed. And it's come up as well with when I first became an expat and went to Thailand. Admittedly, I didn't have an income, so there is a little bit of practicalness in this. But I was so scared of spending money. You know, basically I didn't have any trust. I didn't have any trust in God, in the universe, that I was going to be provided for. And I mean, I would just count the pennies. I would get stressed if I ever felt I'd spent too much on anything. Now, Mexico is quite expensive, certainly relative to Thailand. And it's been quite a shock for me, actually. I think it's partly because I'm in tourist areas. But I've just been, so I'm spending more. So basically I earn like $20 a day on YouTube, on the other channel, on this channel. And I've been spending way more than that. And usually that would really stress me out. You know, I'd be constantly doing calculations in my head, like, what's going to happen? Can I afford this? Blah, blah, blah. But I've just been, you know, it's okay. I'm going to earn more money soon. Or someone will donate some money. You know, just trusting that it's going to be okay. Anyway, so I've come out here with no plug adapter because that's how disorganized I am. So I've been searching for a plug adapter for like 2 days, and then I found one, and it was $5 for like the smallest, tackiest, crappiest plug adapter ever. I mean, maybe $5 is about right, but I feel like it should have been $2 or $3. And when she said the price, I kind of was so happy to just find one, but I didn't really question it, and I was just like, yeah, great. And then as I was paying, I was like, oh, that's $5. And usually that would have created like some sort of existential crisis in me, like, I'm being scammed, I'm spending I could save $2 if I shopped around a bit, and all of it, and you know, years ago, or not even that many years ago, that could have been with me all day. And actually years ago, that could have been with me for about a week. I could have kept thinking back to like, oh, I wasted $2 on that phone charger. But in the moment, it was just this like, it's fine, it's a deep acceptance. You need this socket really badly. And, be grateful that you've got this plug adapter. Rather than going into the like, money. And that's coming up in basically every area. Every time I buy anything other than a cheap taco. But even they're not that cheap, actually. So yeah, what I'm trying to speak into is the surrender. The going with the flow, not trying to control. Usually I'd have been like really worried about the fact that Mexico is proving to be quite expensive. I'm just not trusting at all, but there's just so much more trust and flow now. The other challenge that's been coming up for me is sexual. I'm in a tourist resort where everyone's just getting shit-faced. So I did find myself on Grindr, and it was a coping mechanism. It was escaping oneself in all that noise. It was a way of distracting myself. This was fairly early in the evening, and I got some really good offers. Some hot guys wanted to pound my ass. Oh, so just for clarification, I've been celibate since December. I just don't see anything to be gained from sexual energy exchange, especially with plebs. And just one that it really doesn't grip me anymore. But in my desperate times, in my times of like, oh, I can't cope with this, it still comes up. And there were a couple of times where I'm not sure I got close, but I was certainly messaging as if I was going to meet someone, and then I thwapped off. And obviously, as soon as I'd spunked, I was like, ooh, what am I thinking? Then I found myself doing it again an hour later. So the reason I tell you this is because we all fall into our coping mechanisms. We all fall into our old patterns. But you notice, as you're doing this work, you notice each time a bit more separation, a bit more space between your emotion, your thought, and then the action, the coping mechanism, the acting out, in this case, sexual acting out. And just less being gripped by it. 5 years ago, there would have just been no space there at all. There'd have been no question of whether I was going to meet someone, because I essentially couldn't cope with myself. I couldn't cope with being with myself. And now, I'm very comfortable in presence, in general. If I'm in nature, if I'm in a nice spot, there's no desire to act out in that way. But when I'm challenged, it comes up. It comes up. So this is the work, this is the work. Becoming the observer, noticing. The more we surrender, the more we learn to feel our emotions, the more we get a space. Most people live in emotion, thought, action, all being one thing. Like they're not even separate, they're just in it. They're in the external, they're in the ego. But as we do this work, and as we become the observer, that separation begins to occur, and then we're able to actually make some choices. So yes, that's so I didn't get any sleep. Well, I did get some sleep, but I'm not well slept. I travelled for 40 hours, then I've been in a concrete jungle, then I've been in this tourist concrete jungle. Last night I got like 4 hours sleep. I'm currently trying to cancel the second night of the hotel, but we don't really do customer service out here, so I'm not very hopeful. So yes, I don't feel like I've spoke too well in this video, but please do forgive me. And I bought a coffee this morning. I pressed cappuccino original, and it turned out to be hot chocolate. And needless to say, when I went back to the shop, they couldn't care less. So yeah, I haven't even had my morning coffee, so yeah, it's quite a struggle. But hopefully I'll be out of this tourist hellhole later today, if not tomorrow, and I'll be able to produce some decent videos. Alright, I hope it was good enough for a like, maybe even a subscribe. Drop me a comment. I'll see you soon. I think it shows up as, how can I pass this time? How can I escape this time? You know, it's not it's not that dissimilar to any thoughts of wanting to end things. You know, it's ultimately like not wanting to be here, so I'll act out to escape being here, which is essentially presence, like being in the moment. That's how it comes up for me, like on a practical level. Like, you know, it's 9 o'clock at night, I'm like, there's music playing, I'm just going to be eating this for 3 hours. How should I escape it? Oh, well, I could meet someone. You know, that's how it comes up, but it's really all about, can we just be present, even in trying moments? Or do we need to escape ourselves? And there's no shaming that. Like, it's all a process. I had to spend many years of acting out to get to a point where I was even willing to do the work, because I was so fed up of my life. And then it's only through doing the work that I now have the perspective that I speak with now, and value presence over everything. So even if I was to act out, you know, there'd be a noticing of why I'm doing that, and a deeper feeling of that. Not if I acted out, because I'd be escaping that feeling, but because I didn't last night, you know, I experienced myself a bit more. And it's also like this proving to myself that I can do it. You know, I can be in noise, and it's, you know, it's horrible, but I can do it. It's not completely unbearable. I don't need to get off my face. For example, if I go back years, 15 years, I went to London, and it was for a mate's birthday, so I decided I should be sober. Obviously we were getting shit-faced, because that's what we did, that was how we were friends. You know, football and alcohol was our only connection, not real friendship. And I decided to not take any smoke with me. Now, I was an everyday, like, full-on smoker, because I wanted to be sociable. Anyway, by 10 o'clock at night, I was going mental. I just couldn't live without it. So I ended up going and smoking some crack. I met a black dude on a street corner, asked him for some weed. He said, yeah, took 50 quid off me, and went and bought crack with it. So I was like, well, that's my crack, so I'm smoking some of it with you. So I did. You know, so that's an example of, so that was the first and only time. Oh no, I did do it a few years later as well. But that was the first time I'd ever smoked crack. And I had no desire to smoke crack, but I just couldn't be with myself. It could have been anything in that moment. It could have been, I don't think I'd have used a needle, but it could have been anything in that moment. And it just wouldn't have mattered. I just had to escape myself. So that's where I'm coming from. And that's why I'm honouring myself for managing to just sit in the mayhem and be with the mayhem. And I had to keep telling myself, it's only 2 days, it's only 2 days. I've got an apartment in Tulum tomorrow for 5 days, so I'm hoping I'll get some sort of peace and rest there.